Hey, this is Chris with the Door County Film Festival. I just got off of a Zoom meeting with director Joe Van Auken. He submitted a film called A Field Guide to Sasquatch Structures and Other Serious Signs. I was so excited about this movie that I set up a Zoom with him to basically let him know that he's an early entry. He will be showing at the festival this coming year in February. You will remember Joe from other films in the past. He did a movie called Safe Light, and also a movie called Lash. Those two were really well received films that we've shown previously. This movie, Field Guide to Sasquatch Structures, was very entertaining, very funny, and scary. I'm sure you're going to really enjoy it. And I know that you'll enjoy this conversation I had with him. He was very, very fun to talk to. Had some great ideas of how to approach filmmaking. I enjoyed this conversation, so I wanted to share it with you. Okay, so I'm here sitting with Joe Van Auken. Is that how you say your name? I've been
Yep.
Joe. Yeah. Okay, good. And he is giving us I had to write this down. A field guide to Sasquatch structures and other serious signs.
That's
So,
that's the whole title. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's great. The uh First of all, I just want to say thank you for finally showing some proof that Sasquatch actually exists. You know, that's kind of awesome. Um, what where does this come from? Are you a Squatch watcher?
This came from it was a gift my wife got me for my birthday. Because we had watched, there's plenty of Sasquatch hunting shows on the Discovery Channel, and we're big fans of all of them. Big fans of cryptids and just kind of the culture around them, and more than anything, the people that go looking for them. We just think is so fascinating. And for my birthday one year, she got me off of Etsy a little self-published, self-made, you could call it a book, but it was a little guide that somebody somewhere who lives, I guess, woods adjacent had put together, um, kind of telling you how to look for signs of Sasquatch out in the forest. And it was so sweet and so earnest, but it was just pictures of nothing. Just pictures of leaves on the ground, some twigs, and then paragraphs and paragraphs ascribing all this meaning and import to just, twigs and leaves. And I don't know, I fell in love with this little, it's only 8 pages. Once in a while you can see the person's like nephew kind of in a picture for scale. And there's something just so sweet about it. And I think that's what really drove us here is that it was it was a kind of comedy we wanted to make where we could laugh along with people, where we weren't punching down, where we could find, the sweetness in what they're doing. Misguided though they are, everybody meant well. Um, yeah, it's just a really special community and a really special kind of pursuit, the type of people who go out there looking for Sasquatch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is important to mention of like not looking down, not
Mhm.
like, everybody's got things that they're into. Let's the fun in this is the girls going out into there and not really believing and all that stuff. Um, yeah, I like that. I like that. I in fact, have you seen Bobcat Goldthwait's movie about
Oh,
Sasquatch?
Willow Creek,
Uh,
absolutely,
well, yeah,
absolutely.
Willow Creek. That's it. He said the same thing. He said it was very important to me to not be out there making fun of these people.
Mhm.
And I that's what hooked me right away to watch that one.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and we discuss this a lot when we're out on location, just, where it's coming from. And, I think more so than would say like ghost hunting or other sorts of cryptids, I think there's something fundamentally so optimistic about looking for Sasquatch. Everybody wants to have a special knowledge and to discover a thing, but just I guess the levels you have to get to in your own mind to think that there's this thing still out there to be discovered, this many times benevolent, almost forest avatar that only reveals itself in little ways. That there's in, I guess, in all the shows we've watched and in all the media, there's just no malice in Sasquatch hunting. Whereas you can see like sometimes mediums or ghost huntings, there can be, an exploitative element, working off a person's grief or their belief structure. But Sasquatch is about believing that there is this special thing that you alone can go out there and find, and it's just so hopeful to me. We just found it so wonderful.
I that kind of reminds me of excuse me, a friend of mine that is like does believe in ghosts, like truly,
Mhm.
like and she's always trying to convince me of it. And my answer anytime that we talk about it is always that like I want to,
Mhm.
show me, like, and that's kind of where it goes with Sasquatch, like, and I really do believe most of us really want this to be true, like,
Oh, yeah.
like that we want this to there to be a creature out there, and of course we all want to see it.
Yeah. I mean, there is something like the something about discovery. We do live in an age where everybody has access to so much information, and it can feel like there isn't as much unknown anymore. There's something really, I guess, primal about discovering something and proving something, to be the first to see or to prove something. I just think that I think that speaks to a lot of people. Um, it's just, yeah, really a really, really positive. I wouldn't even call it a belief, just a really positive hope looking for Sasquatch.
Yeah, this the movie's great. It's very funny. I loved it. People who have been going to our film festival for the last few years, you've seen Joe's movies. Let me make sure that I got Safe Light.
Mhm.
Was the first one that we showed back in 19. That was a good one. I really liked. So you were led to believe like, or like you didn't know what they were doing. They were like, it was like this hidden, like bringing in these elements, and they're mixing these solvents together, and you're like, okay, what's going on? And they're developing film for to watch a movie. I loved it. I loved it, and that really captures to me what we're trying to show at these film festivals. Is like you the hook. You bring people in, you get people excited, or like wondering what's going on here, and then it for me, like it was just like it's a love for movies,
Mhm.
and so that one just sticks with me. I watched it again about a half hour ago, just
Oh,
thank God for Film Freeway. Those
yeah.
movies don't go away unless you take them down.
No, no. That's great. That's wonderful. I mean, yeah, when we were putting that together, it's just, the course of my life was so decided by following movies, and my wife, the same story with her. And I'd come across some stories of underground kind of circuits of people behind the Iron Curtain who would go to extraordinary lengths to smuggle in Western movies and Western music. And there was a whole genre in the former Soviet Union called bone music. And they didn't have the raw materials to make kind of these frivolous um, Western things, but it was possible to copy a vinyl record onto a cutout piece of X-ray vinyl. So there was groups of people who would scavenge through the dumpsters behind hospitals to reclaim pieces of X-ray film and then put like Beatles records on them and then pass those around like a underground tape exchange like we used to have here. Um, and they incurred so much risk in doing this. It was a dangerous thing, but they just wanted to see movies. They wanted to listen to music. And I thought, kind of paying homage to that and just how that's kind of guided my life path is, yeah, that's just where we wanted to go. I just thought it was really extraordinary.
Yeah. So is that how you come up with movie ideas? Is just like, like you hear a story and then your mind just kind of goes like, okay, how can I use this? Or
Yeah, I think the big decider for me the last few years has been what's going to make my wife laugh. So I used to be, I used to be in Los Angeles. I used to be in the business. Um, and so much of it was trying to keep the business working and keep the lights on and very commercially focused. And in the years since, when it's become more of I guess, a personal artistic pursuit, I had to take a step back, realizing I was going to spend a bunch of my own money, a bunch of my own time, which I don't have an infinite amount of.
either
Right. And
either time or money.
I just thought about what I really wanted to do with these movies, not just for the sake of making them. And what I take the most joy away from is making my wife laugh. Um, and so when it came down to it, it's any idea that I can kind of pitch to her and get her giggling, then I think it's worth a pursuit. And she's always been such a part of it and kind of my driving force, the reason I go to work every day and the reason I keep doing the movies is because she loves it so much. So that's kind of the big deciding factor is if it's an interesting story that makes her laugh, we'll go right ahead and do it.
I love that. I really do. It's like your measuring stick is it does my wife laugh at it. That's why a person should be making movies.
Mhm.
So where did Lash come from?
Lash, okay, so Lash LaRue was a real man. Um, Let me start by saying I love bad movies. I love bad movies. I seek out bad movies and watch them more than anything else. If you count seeking out bad movies, I probably watch about 500 a year. It's just, I think there is something so fascinating about watching somebody who is not proficient at an art form give it their best shot. And movies require so much technical proficiency that it's so easy to fail at. And what you what you can get out of a bad movie is something you can never get out of like a produced movie or a movie that's a product. And you can find out so much about who a person is by the movie that they make. Like I use the example, I've seen every movie Christopher Nolan has ever made. I can't tell you a lot about him as a person. Um, he likes mystery and a good twist, but I don't know anything about his personal politics or his feelings about his father or any of that. But when you watch a bad movie by some of these smaller directors who crank them out year after year, they put themselves in a position to have to show you something normal, no matter what type of movie it is. So I like to use the example of Don Dohler. So he did a movie called Galaxy Invader. So aliens come down to a small town. There's a shootout with the people. There's laser blasts, whatever. But that's not the whole movie. There's significant parts of the movie where people have to do normal stuff. And when that happens in a movie, the director has to show you what they think is normal. So in between the laser blasting, Don Dohler had to have these scenes where a family sits down to dinner or a young man tries to meet a young woman for a date and show you what he thinks is normal and how he thinks people should get along. And it's fascinating. So while you can watch all the Christopher Nolan movies you want, and you can't tell much about them, if you watch The Room one time, you know everything there is to know about what Tommy Wiseau thinks about women, money, gender politics, life. I mean, that's everything. That's his whole heart is on the screen right there. And
Right.
it's just so interesting. So Lash LaRue was an old time cowboy in the movies he got famous for his gimmick, which he was using a bullwhip. He used to hang out down in Los Angeles at Gower Gulch, and he got him on the big Western boom, and he got in a bunch of Westerns. But then over time, obviously that faded. Television came around. Once Gunsmoke was off TV, and he kind of hit a nadir in his career. And then something really weird happened. And you see this now today, where an action star of yesteryear gets picked up by a bad director because they're a recognizable name or a name that that director recognizes. Um, and they start putting them in their very low budget, not very good movies. And that happened with Lash LaRue. So long, long after his star had faded and nobody was making westerns anymore, in his 60s, I believe, he hooked up with a director called Fred Smoot, who was not making westerns. He was he was making weird little sci-fi slash horror things, usually filmed in one little house in like rural Maine. These were not westerns. There was no reason for somebody to have a bullwhip. Didn't make any kind of sense. But Mr. Smoot remembered, I can get this Western star from yesteryear to come out for a couple bucks and he'll be in my movie. And so towards the end of his life, Lash LaRue made a couple movies, one called The Dark Power. Um, one was, oh shoot, what's that? Alien Outlaw was another one. So these sci-fi horror movies where for no reason there is a cowboy just in the middle of what's going on. And it's so out of place and weird and charming. We just thought it was very funny, but very sweet to watch, where you could tell he used to be this big star and he does like being in movies, but there's absolutely no reason for him to be here. Why does the bullwhip man have to fight a space alien? No sense. It's just funny and bizarre and like I said, charming. And so we kind of fell in love with that. The weird little projects he chose to do at the end of his life. And so we wanted to kind of put together an homage to that type of thing and make a fake documentary about the last movie he was ever going to be in. Just as an excuse, basically, my wife my wife likes it when I make fun of Lash LaRue. All our friends who came out, they thought it was just a funny thing to put together. And it was a fun weekend up at the farmhouse. And so it was just an excuse to have a good laugh and a good time with a bunch of people who fundamentally do love this old character.
Mhm.
Just kind of wanted to celebrate him one last time.
Yeah, that was really cool. And like the part, more of this, like not really not making fun of the guy, but realizing that he is a character, you know,
Absolutely.
and you go into that real serious dialogue where he like, like, oh, you think I'm a joke and all this stuff, and then he gets real serious and staring right into the camera. And like I'm just like, wow, you got me. You pulled me, and then you pan down and he peed his pants.
Eh,
Like I'm sorry, that's my kind of humor.
I'm glad it resonated.
Yeah. I remember a lot of us talking about that year. That was in 20. And we actually showed it live. That was right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And when we had our final festival, our festival before and we were all there kind of like, should we be doing this? Because it's February
Yeah.
of 20. But I remember a lot of people after in between sessions talking about that movie, like that was like so funny to them. And for those reasons, just that that it was like it's funny with a heart, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. So yeah, I loved it.
That's great. And I'm glad that's how it came across because it was a conversation we had kind of through it. Like, are we punching down? Are we only doing this? And what I came to the conclusion was that, Lash early on in his life, um, he got one of his first acting jobs on a Western by lying to the producer and said, "Oh yeah, I'm great with a bullwhip. I bullwhip all. I know exactly how to do that." He had no idea, never used one before in his life, but he bullshitted his way into a movie, and so it's just there's not too many businesses like that. I can't walk into a hospital and be like, "I know everything about stethoscopes," and they're like, "Well, you're a doctor now." There is something charming and wonderful about how you can just sort of make it up and reach some amount of success in Hollywood, and that attracts just such a very specific caliber of person, real weirdos. But at the end of the day, for all their eccentricities, they all do want the same thing. They just want to be working that day. They just want to be shooting that day. And it's weird and wonderful, and it's something I miss very much.
Nice. My career started on a lie as well. Um, I got a job editing for the news, and I didn't even understand the concept. I just told them I knew how to do it.
Mhm.
I went to school the next day and I said, told my teacher, "Could you teach me to edit? I think I got a job." And that's 25 years ago.
Yeah,
So
it's it's amazing.
I love that. So do you do you go to the film festivals to and show, or are you more of a just send my movie out there and
I we want to. So a lot of what we do is when we're targeting festivals and when I'm working with Nick is they all have to be places I'd want to go. So I'm from the Midwest, from Minnesota originally, so I love going back. I love the culture, I love the flavor of things out there. The last couple of years have been just hard to do that. But I think we're in a place now where especially with a field guide where our intent is to actually go out there, meet people, be amongst folks watching it. It's just we have to, I don't know, kind of reestablish what our normal is again. I don't know if any of us are really over everything that happened. But this is about looking ahead, and I'm excited to get out there with folks.
cool. And what do you look for in a film festival? Like, that's one question I like to ask people. Helps us a
Um,
lot.
yeah, if they've had people there before that we think would that we'd get along with, if they've showed stuff that's weird like our stuff is weird, if they have a certain type of taste in things. Now, and you've been around a minute, and so you remember the days back when there were maybe a couple dozen film festivals. Um, back before I don't know how it is nowadays. I've been out of the business, but when I was working before, the top tier festivals had really just become another stop on the PR train for like completely produced movies that already had distribution, and Natalie Portman's going to show up, and it was just one more. It's part of the junket. But I
Hmm.
remember, when I started working, the way things were in the '90s were like you were putting things out there to take a swing, to show up and meet people, and maybe something amazing can happen. Um, and I think the year I graduated college, my professor, he looked at us just kind of there and he said, who can anybody guess how many distribution deals were signed at Toronto this year? And we're all throwing out numbers. He said one. Out of the whole programming thing, everything either already had it or they weren't going to get it.
Hmm.
And it's just so I guess we're really looking for the spirit of it. People who love this, places that support this. There are so many wonderful towns in America that are not these massive cities where the communities really support it. Um, it's just people who love the same things we love is really what we're looking for.
Hmm. Great. Well, I mean, I hope one day you're yeah, able to come out and see our festival because that's kind of what we got going on. It's a lot of locals that that really just want I'm shopping at the grocery store and somebody will just randomly walk up to me like, "You got any good movies this year?" Like I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't remember you." Like, but and people do travel to come here, but yeah, mostly it's a local player, and it's just that it's a love of movies. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
It's, yeah. Especially and things change so much, and we're in an era right now where everything is a property or everything is content, and there's it's a bigger ocean than it ever has been. I just think it is really important to connect with people who love the same things, who are committed to making the same things. Like you and me are going to be some of the last people that understand making a movie as just a
mhm.
movie. 120 pages, 120 minutes, standalone as a thing. Like it's everything is either a 2-second TikTok or it's some 7-season property. And it's just, I think we're going to be some of the last, I guess, opera singers. It's going to be this glorious art form that just is going to I don't know, find its way into a museum before soon. But I just,
I hope you're wrong. I'm gonna, I, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing this festival to prove you wrong.
please, and I'll keep coming. I swear to God.
All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's been great talking with you. Keep making movies. You have been entertaining me for a few years now, and keep making your wife laugh.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, I can make all the movies I want, but if we didn't have people as dedicated and really hardworking, I'm seeing it from the inside. Guys working as hard as you, we wouldn't have anybody to show it to. So I really want to express my thanks.
Yeah, well, and right back at you. Thanks for making them. We'll keep showing them. Yeah. Yeah.
So, kind of the funny thing about having conversations like that, as soon as I hit stop, stopped recording the conversation, we talked for another 20 minutes. I really, really enjoyed my conversation with him, and I wish I would have recorded the rest of that. Hope you enjoyed this conversation we had. Look forward to more coming in the future. And as always, I'm very excited about what we've got planned for this coming festival. We'll see you in February.